Exactly 1 year ago today, I dropped my edible cookie dough recipe, and I thought for this special occasion, we should bring together two timeless classics, Oreos and cookie dough. So today, in the Anabolic Laboratory, we'll be making edible Oreo cookie dough that is half the calories of real cookie dough, so you can mix pleasure with protein. My name is Nick, I have my master's in exercise physiology, and I make anabolic recipes just like this one, and I also do full days of eating and a ton of other fitness content. So if you're into that kind of thing, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're ready to have an Oreo cookie dough ready to eat in just about 10 minutes, then let's get into it. As always, I like to get my mix-ins out of the way first. And of course, our mix-ins today are Oreos. I use a regular Oreos because you can use 3 of them instead of 2 of them if you use double stuff. So you get more coverage of Oreos, your cookie dough tastes more like Oreo. But if you only have double stuff, those work as well. I'm gonna cut these into a bunch of random pieces. I cut some bigger pieces, some smaller pieces, make some real crumb-like so it's mixed throughout. Do it however you like. That's all done. We're gonna put this off to the side here. And we got 2 bowls, one for the wet ingredients, one for the dry ingredients. And first we're gonna do our dry ingredients. We will start out with flour. Now, you can heat treat this flour if you'd like, but I like to just go raw. You can put it in the microwave, wait till it reaches 160 degrees, or you put it in the oven at 350 degrees for 5 minutes, just to make sure you don't have any raw flour. And we're gonna start with 90 grams. Next, we have our cocoa powder. We can't just use a regular chocolate, even Dutch cocoa powder. You need to use black cocoa powder. Trust me, when I was making my Oreo McFlurry, I tested a bunch of different cocoa powders, and this brand specifically is the highest quality and the best one. If you look at an Oreo, you see how black it is. It's not black because they dyed it black, it's black because of black cocoa powder. 40 grams. Next, we have our protein powder, and I tested several different kinds of protein powders while I was in the taste testing process, and I really came down to 2 proteins, and I'll tell you why in a second. There's gonna be one protein that makes it taste more like a authentic Oreo flavor, and there's going to be another protein that makes it just have more flavors overall, including some Oreo and some from the protein, because if you use a bad protein, a bad tasting protein, it's going to shine through on this recipe. You want a good quality vanilla protein. And when I used the PE Science vanilla, the vanilla bean came through way too much. The vanilla on the Gorilla Mind is very subtle, and it really keeps that Oreo, authentic Oreo taste when you actually make it. However, the chocolate cupcake from PE Science has it's almost weird. You kind of get like a frosting kind of taste with a more heavy chocolate taste, but it's not the same Oreo chocolate, but the black cocoa powder makes it taste like Oreo, and then you have the Oreos. It's just a whole bunch of flavors, and it's like Flavor Town. So really any protein is going to work, but the most Oreo flavor you're going to get is gonna come from the Gorilla Mind vanilla protein, and then the most overall flavor is gonna come from the PE Science chocolate cupcake. Now, I am an ambassador, athlete, whatever you wanna call it, for both of these companies, so I do have a code to have either 15 or 10% off. 15% off PE Science, 10% off Gorilla Mind. Again, you can use any whey casein blend that you would like, but these are the 2 that I have to test, along with several other flavors from these same companies. For today's example, I'm just gonna use the Gorilla Mind vanilla protein powder, and we need 2 scoops here. The last dry ingredient we have is salt, and we're gonna get 1.5 grams here. If you don't have a point scale, I highly suggest you get one, but you can just put 2 grams if you don't. But don't go over 2 grams because then it will be too salty. Now we're gonna take our whisk and whisk this all together. And I'm going through this process for a reason. I've made this several times. I'm doing this so you have the quickest recipe, you have the least amount of dishes you have to do, and it, like I said, comes together the fastest. So I would highly suggest you go in the exact order that I do for everything. When you're done mixing, you should have a grayish, blackish color. kind of like that. Next, we're gonna get our wet ingredients going, and I'm going to use 42 grams of a light butter. I'm gonna heat this up for about 10 to 15 seconds until this is melted. Next up, we have our eggs. I'm using regular ass eggs. You can get pasteurized eggs that are super expensive, or we will go over the substitutions that you can use later on in the video if you want to use something that is already pasteurized. However, I've eaten hella raw cookie dough over my lifetime, and it has went splendidly. So we're gonna go with 2 whole eggs and then 2 egg whites. And then we got our sweetener. I use Pure Cane or Swerve, whichever one is cheaper on Amazon. Right now, Pure Cane was cheaper, so I'm gonna use 32 grams of the brown sugar and 32 grams of the granular sugar. I tried and taste tested the granular only. The brown sugar gives a little bit added flavor, but if you only have granular, you can still make this recipe with just granular. We got our vanilla extract next, 4.2 grams. And last but not least, is kind of a dark horse. This is coffee extract. I hate coffee. I'm very sensitive to coffee, as in if something tastes a speck of coffee, I will taste it. And I did not taste the coffee with the coffee extract in it. It just adds to that overall chocolatey flavor. So I'm gonna put in 2 grams of coffee extract. Again, kind of like the brown sugar Pure Cane, you don't absolutely need this to make the recipe, but it does add to the overall flavor and the most Oreo chocolatey goodness that you're gonna have at the end of the recipe. We're gonna whisk this all together. Make sure you whisk thoroughly. Don't be lazy about it. We want everything as mixed up as possible. Again, your product's gonna come out fine if you don't whisk it crazy thoroughly. However, you have the most consistent bites of Oreo every single time you put your spoon into your tub. If you do. Now that our wet ingredients is all mixed, we are going to add our dry ingredients in parts. 3 to 4 parts, you put in a part, once it's mixed in, you put in the next part, etc. After the first part, it's gonna look like literal shit, but please trust the process. I got you. After our first part, it was literally straight liquid. Now, it's starting to get a little bit thicker. But for this last part that I'm gonna put in, I don't wanna use the whisk because everything's gonna get caught in the middle. You will get super frustrated, and just let me go through that frustration in my testing process. So we're gonna switch over to a spatula now, and we're gonna add our third part, and I will show you what the consistency looks like when it's all mixed in. Now you're gonna notice there's little chunks of stuff in here. To really try and smooth it all out, I go along the bowl and bring the dough up, and I rub it along the sides, and I push it down in the middle, and then I'll go and I'll take all the dough, put it back into the middle, mix it around, and then I'll push it against the sides again. I usually do this about 3 to 5 times, depending on how it looks like, but when it looks smooth enough for you, then go ahead and you're pretty much done. But some people I know would literally mix it and not even smooth it out on the sides and loved it regardless. So it's really up to you. Again, I'm going for the best flavor possible. The final product is right about here, and this is what we're looking like. It's only going to thicken up in the fridge, and I think the casein has some sort of reaction as it sits in the fridge that it thickens up and kind of stays like that. It will become thinner when you take it out and you leave it out, but it's definitely thicker than it was right now, even at room temperature after you refrigerate it. And I would suggest 24-hour turnaround for the best flavor. However, many people have dug in right away on the original cookie dough and absolutely loved it still. The last thing we gotta do, but probably the most important thing, is we have to add our Oreos in here. And I wanna add about 2 of the 3 cookies into the fold. And now with our chunks, it looks disgusting, but it's absolutely delicious. We have to store our cookie dough, and what do I prefer? I prefer this type of Tupperware that's more flat and wide, because once we put it in there, I saved this Oreo to sprinkle this on top so that every single time you take a bite, you get Oreo in your mouth and it tastes like Oreo. That's the whole goal here, because let's be honest, without the Oreos, we're talking like 6.5 out of 10 of the real Oreo thing. We're using cookie dough, we're using a protein powder that has a lot of flavor in it that really overtakes if you don't use everything properly and don't make sure that you use every ingredient with purpose. Unfortunately, right now I don't have any of these wide flat ones, so I'm gonna put it in a more small circular container, but you'll see what I do right now. We have our dough poured, and I literally just like to add Oreos across the top. And this is exactly what I mean. You literally, every time you put your spoon in, you can decide, do I wanna take a chunk of Oreo from the top with my regular cookie dough, where I could get an Oreo inside, or I might not, or do I just wanna take a bite of straight cookie dough, which I might get an Oreo in, or I might not. Now, let's go over the macros. Most people eat in about 400 to 500 calorie increments, and especially with this, you can't really eat the whole thing. I've eaten 3/4 of it before, especially with like the last cookie dough, but it just gets too sweet, it's too much. So for a 500 calorie serving, we're looking at 225 grams, 38 protein, 65 carb, which a lot of them are coming from the Swerve, which isn't actual carbs, not counted as calories, and 19.5 fat. If we're looking at regular cookie dough, we are talking about 112 grams for 500 calories, so you get double the volume, and you get 4 grams of protein. 4 or goddamn near 40. The choice is easy. A couple of quick things you can do to lower the calories here is you can put in all egg white. Not only will this lower the calories, these are also pasteurized, so your 1 in like 2,000 chance of getting salmonella, which I've never gotten from raw eggs, isn't here with these because they do take that out in the pasteurizing process. This will save you about 100 calories when you use this instead of the 2 whole eggs. And I will put the amounts down in the pinned comment below if you wanna see the exact amounts that you need for the liquid egg white. Also, you can obviously leave the Oreos out, but if you leave the Oreos out, you are taking away all of the Oreo flavor. Like I said, 6 to 6.5 out of 10 if you just have the dough by itself, but when you have chunks of Oreo in every single bite, you taste that Oreo along with that cookie dough flavor, and it all comes together in a purely heavenly synchronization that is just unbelievable. And I promise if you try it, you will absolutely love it. I tried it, love it. Girlfriend tried it, loved it. Roommate tried it, loved it. I can guarantee you will like it if you like Oreos and you like cookie dough. If you want to help support the channel, use any of the links in the pinned comment below. I have 2 great recipes coming out soon that I showed in my full day of eating that I just posted a few days ago, which is the cheesy bread and the peppermint Chick-fil-A bark milkshake shake. Both delicious, both game changers in my opinion. And until next time, I will see you in that next one. Deuces.